I'm very much enjoying getting to know you and also wanting to hear a little bit more about whether or not our rather, as I say, controversial title of whether it's all talk, what you're all doing, is true or not. And I know that we would enjoy some real candor from the front line. And Bipin, if I can ask you first, I mean, you have, I've already said, led a lot of change from the inside at Wells Fargo. That seems to be going pretty well, but tell us a little bit about how you've managed to handle that massive cultural clash.
Yeah, and thank you for having us here. Thank you for attending. It's been a great journey because if you historically look at Wells Fargo, 162-year-old bank has done a lot. You know, we started based on innovation, and that journey has continued. And if I go back to just last 15, 20 years, we've led from a point where the lines of business typically get involved with innovation. It's not just the innovation group, which is just dreaming up of cool ideas and building solutions on the side. You can never do that. You know, you have to work with the lines of business, invest in early stage, ideas, and there are a lot of ideas. You'll be surprised the ideas we see every day. And the best part is the fintechs have happened. That is so beneficial to us because so many smart people outside these banking environments are doing some cool stuff, and we want to leverage that for our customers. The end value in the game for us is from a customer's point of view. So, it's been a great journey from a culture point of view. It's like it's the top of the house kind of a model. If you have your management team supporting the innovation value in the charter, things actually do happen, and we've seen that.
And from where you're sitting at Deutsche Bank, Richard, is it the same? Do you have that support from the top of the house to support this investment in the fintech world?
Absolutely. We've got a lot of support across the bank to work with fintechs. We have 4 labs based across the world to identify startups that could be of benefit to the financial service industry. We have a digital factory in Frankfurt that will help develop the best ideas for our bank. And we have the capability to invest in the most promising fintechs where it makes a strategic sense to do so. So across the board, we have that ability to work with fintechs.
And so what does make strategic sense? What have you been investing in?
The companies that we are interested in range across the capital market platforms, from trading, clearing settlement through to communication platforms, data provision. We have a range of 42 different investments that we've got at Deutsche Bank, and many of our competitors have a similar portfolio of investments as well. So.
And did you identify the need, or did you see what was out there?
It comes both ways, actually, where we will look outside and see what fintech companies are doing, but often we have incoming either from fintech companies or from consultancies that we work with to identify the most promising new technologies that could work for us.
Now, Sigurd, at Santander, I know that you've made quite a public statement that you very much listen to what the customers want and then go out and find the best application, if you like, for that. So can you expand a bit on that approach to your collaboration with fintech?
Yeah, so our approach to collaboration is really putting the customer at the center, really understanding what the pain points are from a customer perspective, and solving that from, with that lens through collaborating with fintechs and startups. We've found it incredibly effective to bring together that kind of those fintechs that are really solving things from a customer perspective, and them partnering with a big bank like Santander. What they get is access to customers, 133 million customers worldwide, and they get that resilience. But what we get in return is that incredible customer focus and speed, which is really critical to drive that innovation, making sure that you're always putting the customer at the center. We've made a declaration. Our aim is to be the best open financial services platform, and in order for us to do that, you need to really put the customer at the heart of that innovation and create that innovation ecosystem to enable you to do that.
How easy has it been to do that? How have you find that transition has been successful? Have there been some bumps in the road?
I think there are definitely bumps on the road. I think we're getting better at driving innovation at scale. So a couple of great examples are the partnership that we did with a company in the US called Cabot last year, where we first invested in them through our InnoVentures fund, $200 million fund, InnoVentures, and then we brought them to the UK again, starting with the customer, thinking about what what is that pain point? It could take from 2 to 12 weeks for our small business to get a business loan in the UK, and now they get decision in minutes and funds into the account within 24 hours. Another great example is the work that we've done with a blockchain company called Ripple. Again, we invested in them first, and we built in the first instance, a pilot for international payments just here in the UK, testing out if the technology works, and now we are about to launch across 4 markets, an international payments solution built on blockchain technology that gives you instant funds, 3 clicks. Within 40 seconds, you can move your money from one market to another. So that is, again, a great example of scale. But to your point, it hasn't been easy. The challenge, I think, for a lot of the big banks is our legacy infrastructure and being able to move that at speed. So what we are doing, and I think a lot of the big banks are doing the same, is building microservices and APIs on top of the infrastructure to enable you to connect faster with fintechs and startups and opening up your platform, if you like.
I mean, Bipin, is that a similar story at Wells Fargo? I mean, how have you managed to facilitate the collaborations?
So, traditionally, if you look at any big bank, in the past, you would need at least a mid-sized, mature company to come and start working with you, or you would go to traditionally the big, large tech vendors. I think that what we have done is we've kind of broken that silo of going to the big technology, but start focusing on what our customers really want. And to her point, exactly, we are kind of customer-driven R&D, customer-driven innovation. The point there is we've shortened the time. In the past, it used to take a company to mature maybe 2 years to come and meet a large bank. We've kind of reduced it to a few informal and some formal meetings so that we can start working with them seamlessly and quickly in the R&D group. So as part of my R&D efforts, that's where the charter is, where we bring in a lot of cool companies. We see approximately, in the last 3 to 4 years, we've seen close to 2,000 companies. And we have a small accelerator program. So if you like a company, and it's basically the need from a line of business. If the line of business really wants to work with this startup, we will invest in the startup, we'll put some hard dollars into it. So we have like 17 companies into the Wells Fargo Startup Accelerator Program, which actually is a perfect vehicle for us to kind of meet very early stage companies, bring them in, work with them, learn from them. And the idea there is to learn, and we can help them on a couple of things too. How do you work with a bank of our size? Because once you work with us, you could work with any other bank potentially outside the US or within the US market. But it's been an awesome journey for us. I mean, it's like the excitement is unbelievable. If you come down to San Francisco and to our offices, we're like a startup ourselves. We're not like a traditional bank, from that perspective.
You heard it here. All right, I hope you're all taking notes.
Yeah.
Go see Bipin. But tell me, how do you identify, though, what particular areas of fintech?
Good question. So, all the right topics, like whether you're dealing with biometric authentication, you're looking at artificial intelligence in a very big way. We're looking at things around cybersecurity. That is never going to die, by the way. You need more. You need more intelligence, in my mind. We're looking at stuff in the identity management space, which is, how do you onboard a customer not by sending you to a branch or an office, but doing it where you are. So our thought process there has been, we want to be where our customers are, and that's why you'll see some of the things which we've done in the messaging space with Facebook. We're launching some of our own stuff in our own properties too. But the point is, you got to know where your customers are is very important. You got to understand what your customers need is very important. Then leveraging data, AI, the big data, or the new buzz is AI, how do you apply that to get insights and making those insights actionable for them? Point is, all the analytics tools have come to a point where they give you insights, but then we have to take it to the next level. How do I serve this customer better seamlessly? We want payments and banking to be frictionless. That's the whole mantra I would say we're all kind of heading towards. So APIs, microservices, collaborating with fintechs is very important for us. I mean, that's, I would say, is the most important thing for us, because we can learn with them, we can give them the masses. Like we have customers. We have a lot of customers. So how do you serve this large volume of customers in a seamless manner? And that's where we are here to learn from you guys. If you're a startup in the room, let's chat, because I'm here to learn, not to talk. So, from that perspective, and I see some faces I know, I've known them for a while, and we've been working with some interesting companies already in this market.
Going back to that point, though, about how easy it is for a fintech company to work with you or with Santander or with Deutsche Bank, I mean, Richard, how easy is it? If they're a small company, they've got a great idea, you've had a conversation, you can see there's potential, but then the actual nuts and bolts of working with an institution the size of Deutsche, how does that work?
So we've instituted these laboratories to help nurture these fintech companies and help them understand how a bank works. I think it'd be fair to say that most banks have fairly lengthy vendor onboarding processes, and I think we have to sort of help these fintechs navigate through that process, which can take many months. And I think the onus is on us to see how we could sort of make that faster, less painful to get through.
So if I can just add to Richard's point, what we have done is it might help, is around, how do you streamline that process? Because yes, the vendor onboarding in every bank from regulatory point of view takes a while, anywhere you go, anywhere in the world. And what we've done is, from an R&D perspective, as we want to meet companies sooner and not wait for, a 30-day cycle of, things moving, and traditionally it could take a little longer. So we've kind of shortened the life cycle when it comes to you're doing a proof of concept, when you've doing just a software eval, when you're just leveraging their APIs. So long it's very clear in what we're doing and how we're going to leverage the technology for the initial first phase, the paperwork and the wait time has been reduced. So we have created a new process for it in the bank, from a wealth perspective, so that it's kind of helping me move faster. If you tell me it's going to take 3 months to do a paperwork done, I would be done with at least 3 companies in that time. So point is, we want to move fast. We want to also not waste the startup's time with us, because that's important. They have 2 people and 5 people and 10 people in their enterprise, so to say. I don't want all 10 to be working with us, because then we're totally, messing up with their game plan, and that's not what we want to do.
So if I can just add on to that, I think what's really important is to be clear to the fintech in terms of what the intent is with the partnership. We did a piece of work at the end of last year in partnership with the Financial Services Trade and Investment Board in terms of what does collaboration look like, what does great look like, both in terms of what financial services institutions need to do to simplify the process, but also how do we help the fintech come to the table prepared with having understand the legal and regulatory requirements, the security around data, and being clear around how do you make it work in practice. And one kind of quote that came out of that research, I think that resonated with me, is it's much better to get to a quick no than to that long drawn out maybe. So being really clear about the intent up front is really important for both sides, and really building that true partnership is very important to make it work.
I mean, do you think, any of you, that you've had situations where you've lost a relationship, where it's gone sour because it's just been too much paperwork, it's just not been culturally in any way compatible? Has that happened?
I mean, I think that we've certainly been learning along the way, and really making sure we certainly were by no stretch of the imagination great in the beginning. I think if you look at processes within banks, and we're honest to ourselves, they're built for a waterfall process, takes time, and it's disjointed from the legal department to the technology department, and people might be talking to different stakeholders across the bank. So yes, I absolutely think we have, but I think what we've done now is, through that learning and understanding what great looks like, is having much more of a hand-holding relationship, and we are working on simplifying and making sure the processes are better.
So in our case, we actually call responsible innovation lifecycle. I don't know if that's a real word, but that's what it means, where we on the bank side are responsible for who we bring in and how we collaborate and partner in, and the risk is kind of very, 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 very clearly defined. To your point, it's upfront conversation, move on, let's do the proof of concept. Because, and then, we've also kind of taken that life cycle and we've actually presented to our regulators also. The point is, we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing. It's kind of important for us to do that. And we've seemed to have got a good, conversation with them, understanding that, we do need to move fast. I mean, the point is, there's so much change happening. Primarily, we see companies every day. So, as we like something, we want to move fast and do the paperwork, and you get some proof of concepts going with the lines of business.
Bearing in mind, though, the various barriers to this sort of collaboration from the point of view of the fintech, I mean, does it not occur to you sometimes, I mean, Rich, perhaps you want to take this one, wouldn't it be better to have the innovation in-house and to be recruiting the tech talent, to be Deutsche talent, rather than having to worry about how we get people from groups of people like this on board?
I mean, we do have large technology departments within the bank, and they have specific responsibility around various parts of our infrastructure. But I think what the fintechs bring are clearly speed, and agility to sort of really develop ideas quickly. I think there's some fantastic sort of individuals as well that we wouldn't necessarily be able to recruit into our technology departments. So I think that that there is that ability to work very effectively with fintechs and in a collaborative way. And also, from our perspective, it's being able to finance them as well and share in that opportunity through taking equity investments in those.
Yes, so there's definitely an upside as well. Yeah.
I think on that, I mean, the world is just moving so fast from a competitive perspective. If you look at what's happening in the UK and Europe, more specifically with open banking and Payment Service Directive 2, we have to open up. We have to allow much more innovation happening across the board. That doesn't take away from the fact that you have to bring your overall organization along with you on the journey, train people, make sure you have the right talent for now and for the future, but being open in the way that you create an ecosystem of innovation is really important.
I mean, Bipin, I know Wells Fargo do actively recruit, though, don't they, from the same places that Google does?
Yeah, so we do it a little differently. Since we're very close to Silicon Valley, we actually do collaborate with Stanford, Wharton, and other institutes where we're kind of reviewing the talent coming out of those schools, which is important for us. But there is, of course, you have the Facebook, Googles, and Apples in the same part of the conversation because, the same kid probably has an offer from those three, and then Wells Fargo steps in. So the point is, it's about showing the real vision of what value you as an individual can add to what we're trying to build for our customers. And we've been very lucky. You'll be surprised that, we've actually got on some very interesting talent, especially in the AI space. There's so much stuff happening in AI, and we love the fact that it's all driven from a data, right? Data is the prime, and banks of our size are sitting on so much data and so much to be done with it. And you need this next generation talent to be part of that conversation. Yes, you can cross-train a few people or retrain a few people as people do, but the talent coming out of some of the universities is totally the killer. We totally love the fact that we sponsor some events with them. We even involve them in proof of concepts in these universities. Like we've done something with Stanford, we've done with Carnegie Mellon, we're doing something with Wharton. And we're looking at same things with some Indian institutes in India, like IITs and IIITs out of Hyderabad. So the thought is, there is a lot of smart kids coming out. How do you kind of leverage them? But they can add value to you as much as you can add value to their careers. So I think you've got to think from a mutual value exchange program for both sides.
Do you feel that they're buying into it? This is a question for any of the three of you. Are they buying into that sense that you can have that cool fintech lifestyle, but in-house at a big institution?
Yes. I'd say yes.
You say yes.
I say yes. San Francisco, you should come visit our office. I said that earlier. We're like a startup in a large, enterprise, so to say. But, this is the most formal you'll ever see me because I'm here. I'm always in jeans. This is because of being here.
Yes, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I think it's important. But I think it's broader than just within the innovation labs. You have to think about the work of the future and how do you transform the overall organization and the culture to allow for that to happen, where you have the right environment that drives innovation at the core of the business. Yeah. The other thing that I think is really important is diversity of thoughts, diversity of opinions. I think if we look ourselves in the face for the financial services industry, we still have a way to go to have that kind of right mix of talent across different types of diversity. I'm not just talking gender, but making sure that we are fully inclusive. We certainly are placing a lot of focus on that at Santander, and I think that is really critical to drive innovation that delivers ultimately better financial outcomes.
Well, there's some interesting talent-related questions coming through from the audience, and one just has popped up, which has said here, having made significant investments in fintech and driving innovation, do you have the technical skills capability and talent to support it, given the skills shortage in the sector? So a slightly different angle on the subject we've been talking about. Are you finding it difficult to support? Are you finding the right staff, or is this something that obviously I know, Bipin, you've described your recruitment policy here, but perhaps Richard at Deutsche Bank, what's your
I think for us,
feeling in the air?
That is critical, that once, for example, we've made an investment, that we actually then support the product and the rollout of that product through our infrastructure and technology platforms. And I think we have to contend with turnover in our technology departments, just as other banks do as well. And it's, the challenge there is to make sure we get the continuity and understand what we're trying to achieve there right the way through the process. So we have to cope with that sort of that turnover within our staff, just as we do elsewhere within our bank.
If I think about the overall kind of talent agenda, we've been able to attract the right talent by painting the picture and the vision and the outcomes that people get to work on, building a bank of the future, and driving that change within a big organization. But more broadly, here in the UK, being the best city in the world for fintech, we are working with the Financial Services Trade and Investment Board on the fintech workstream to build a skills blueprint for the future, to look at, do we have the right degrees being developed at universities that deliver the right talent into the industry now and in the future. So that's coming out hopefully middle of this year, and will influence into the universities around how they build their programs. And I think talent is a really important topic for us, and we need to continue to evolve and stay on top of it.
So we're beginning to use AI for even talent recruiting. We have a small group in India, which is part of my team, which is creating models. How do you, as we all get a lot of resumes, or CVs, as we call them, how do you kind of go through a lot of good candidates? So we are actually leveraging AI in the back end to do that. It's a prototype still. Hopefully at one point, HR systems will start using it. So point is, we have to be a consumer of the next generation technology ourselves. You cannot be just, we are here to solve a problem, but then we don't use technology in the back end, which is important, because from our perspective, when you talk about innovation, it's also for our end users. Yes, that's important, but also our team members who support our customers. So I think we've got to think about it a little bit more openly and broadly. This is more to it than just on one problem you're trying to solve.
And how are you finding keeping, this is another question, how do you take the rest of the team with you with all these fast changes in the way you're trying to retain talent and change the mindset of the bank? I mean, Richard, do you want to take this one for Deutsche? Are people kind of open to it within the team?
I think people see, the world of certainly capital markets and investment banking has changed incredibly over the last 10 to 15 years. Yeah. And I think there's a recognition that actually, to be at the forefront of that industry, you have to be able to understand how technology will impact your business going forwards. It's not just a case of you just can let other people worry about that and you can just keep trading away or doing your corporate finance business. So increasingly, those that are being promoted and who are taking the most senior jobs in our industry are those that have that technology sort of understanding and ability to sort of see how the industry is going to evolve going forwards.
We've got a question here which a lot of you have liked, so I'm going to put it to the panel. Bipin, I suspect you might have an answer. It says, will the most disruptive competition for financial giants like yourselves come in the next 3 to 5 years from fast-growing startups, or from encroachment on the industry from big tech giants like Alibaba, Apple, Amazon, etc.?
Yeah, so yes, last year when I was here, there was a conversation, do banks compete with each other? And the answer was no. This year, I think the question is whether the fintechs or the tech giants. I think so our competition has always been the tech giants. If you look at the areas we function in, right, we're primarily a US-centric bank from a consumer banking point of view. And we love the fact that they're looking at new stuff, and we are actually partnering with all those giants, actually. Wells Fargo is part of Apple Pay, Google Pay, Android Pay. We're doing stuff with Facebook. The point is, we welcome the healthy competition because it helps us serve our customers better, because if our customers are using their products, we want our cards and other services to be rendered and used by those ecosystems. So all in all, we love the fact there's so much disruption happening in every segment of financial services, because we can partner and collaborate with these disruptors. Whether you're a fintech, see, from a fintech perspective, if you look at it, the key value personally for me has been they've leveraged data and experience, which is the best thing to ever do when you're creating a startup or you're in a startup. You're solving a real problem. Keeping those two elements in mind is very important, because it takes banks of our size a little time to get there. Point being, now that you've done it, you have a platform, we can now leverage it, which is so good for us, so good for you as a startup. So all in all, this whole ecosystem is very good, healthy. We love the disruptions. We're collaborating with all the participants in this ecosystem primarily.
Does Santander love the disruptions too, Sigurd?
Yeah, so absolutely, and in a similar way, I mean, I do think competition will come more from these players, to be honest, and I think particularly with what's happening here in Europe and actually around the world with opening up the banking system through open banking, it will happen more and more, but we equally partner and collaborate with most of these players, and I think, it's just the world that we live in. It is going to be much more around collaboration, partnerships, and co-creation of the best financial services that we can deliver to our customers. So if customers want to consume their financial information into a messenger app or into one of those technology platforms, we'll do that. We'll absolutely make sure we are driven by the way that our customers want to consume our services.
Yep.
Another interesting question from the floor, which is straightforward. How do you define success when it comes to collaboration with a fintech? What are the metrics? Richard?
Wow. I think ultimately for us, it's finding sort of solutions that achieve our strategic objectives. So, we've got a clear plan as to where we want to take our bank, and the fintechs can, and many of them are, working with us to achieve those strategic objectives. So ultimately, that is the target. But there are a number of ways in which we sort of measure that success. So, for example, when we're looking at our investments, we'll be trying to understand not only how well are they performing financially, but also how well we are deploying their technology across our bank. How successful have we been in terms of achieving what we wanted to do when we set out making the investment in the first place.
So in our case, I mean, I'm part of the R&D group. I lead that group and part of the innovation group overall. When you talk about KPIs and stuff, it's very interesting because, we invest in a lot of companies, but idea of investing is not from an investment dollar value point of view, but it's about return on innovation value to us. So it's not an ROI which is financially driven. For us, the measure is, if we are involved with 17 companies right now as part of our portfolio, we want to, the charter they put on my head is primarily around, 30 to 40% of these companies are being leveraged in our services within the bank, which is a good number because then there's so much value being created for these companies. And we're actually using these technologies, which is helpful. Example of that is, something like Kasisto, Zumigo. These are interesting companies we've been involved with, and we're leveraging their technology in the bank right now. So I think that's the measure for us. But in general, the innovation group, in our sense, is chartered for exploring new business opportunities and business models, which is very different from, how do you really measure that? It's about how many new things and how many big ideas have we brought into the bank. And at the end of the day, once we're done with the proof of concept or a pilot, we work with the lines of business to take ownership of everything what we've done with them. We don't own anything on a permanent basis, which helps us to move on to the next big thing or next 3 other big things. So, you've got to have the cycle running. You cannot be just stuck doing one thing because that life will be boring in my mind, personally.
And Sigurd, very briefly, in a nutshell, how does Santander define success with their fintech relationships?
So I think, beyond, first of all, it is about the customer and delivering joint customer value, and that is the measure of success. But we also care a lot about the partnership and making sure that we build a long-lasting partnership with our partners and building that joint success.
We have to call it a day. I'm so sorry.
Right.
Fascinating. It's gone so fast. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking them. But I think very good insight from the big institutions. Bipin, Richard, and Sigurd. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.